What is going on is Brian versus the Books with GoBoys.com. We always appreciate our sponsor, Sleeper Picks. If you are not on Sleeper Picks, make sure to sign up with my code Brian versus the Books for a free $100 deposit match. And let's get into it. It is Week 18 in the NFL. There's a lot of incentives to look at. There's a lot of teams playing for playoff spots, a lot of teams playing for nothing. You have guys like Carson Wentz back in the league somehow. It's a very weird landscape. It's hard to kind of bet in times, especially because there's not a lot of lines out. A lot of times you see different starting quarterbacks, different lines coming in and out because who knows what exactly is going to happen in this week. But let's try to navigate it with 3 picks. Starting with a Saturday night pick, I am taking Michael Pittman over 75.5 receiving yards. It's pretty widely available on FanDuel and a lot of other books. He had an off day, an off game last time around against the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's also just one of those things where he was coming off a concussion. He'd missed a week. He had 46 total yards, but the targets are there. 6 games prior to that, he had 10 or more targets. He's getting a lot of volume in this game, and it's a must win for this Colts team. I actually favor the Texans in this game, and the Texans defense under D'Amico Ryans and that front 7 has just been so good at stopping the run that I think the Colts are not afraid to just let Gardner Minshew sling the ball. So I just expect a lot of volume for him. Trust the number 1 receiver in a game where this team has to get the win to make it into the playoffs. Next up, we're going to the Sunday game. I'm trusting Justin Fields here, which is a wild statement, but he's been playing a lot better of late. And it's one of those things where this might be his last hurrah with the Bears. He's playing for a spot in a way. So look at this as an audition for Justin Fields to kind of close his tape and give him something to think about in the offseason. His last 6 games, he has thrown 165 or more passing yards, and he's also rushed the ball for 40 more yards in 5 of the 6 games. So what I'm doing is I'm parlaying on FanDuel. It's plus 101 for him to throw for 175 passing yards and parlaying that with 40-plus rushing yards. He's only hit the 75 passing yards in 3 of the last 6 games, but he's always right there with 64. With 164, 169, and 170. I'm just trusting in this game he gets a little bit more juice in this Week 17 game because it's a division rival. The Bears want to beat the Packers at all costs. Plus, a nice, well-rounded game from Justin Fields would put wonders on him and how people think about him in the offseason. So I'm trusting him to do that. His over-under in total yards is 255.5, and I think it's a lot more likely that you see this 175 and 40-plus over that total yards because I don't know if there's a way he can rush for 100 yards and miss it by the passing yards or vice versa. So trusting him to have a nice, well-rounded game. And lastly, a fun pick here. I'm doing a small ladder. So I'm risking 1.15 units to win a unit on Justin Jefferson over 87.5 receiving yards against the Lions. But then I'm putting 0.15 units on 110 plus at plus 180, both on DraftKings. The reason for the small ladder is we talked about incentives and certain things in this sport. He doesn't necessarily have an incentive, but guys do like to play for themselves and they do like to reach these milestones. He's missed a lot of games this year, but he's still only 118 yards away from reaching 1,000 yards. It would be a good feat for him if he can reach 1,000 yards despite missing as many games as he has. And he has a great chance to do it against this Lions secondary that struggled all year, especially against number 1 receivers. Last few games against number 1 receivers, I'm going to read off the list here. They had CeeDee Lamb, who put up 227 yards. Justin Jefferson himself had 141. Cortland Sutton had 74. DJ Moore had 68. Chris Olave had 119. Christian Watson had 94. DJ Moore again with 96. And then Keenan Allen with 175. So all those guys in their respective ways had great games and went over their lines. So I'm just expecting Jetta to come out there, reach that 1,000-yard mark by getting that 110 or more yards. And he gets a good chance against the secondary that has nothing really to play for anymore. And Nick Mullins is back in the starting lineup. If you remember, Nick Mullins against the Lions threw for 411 yards. Last week, they went away from him, but he came in the second half against the Packers and threw for 113 in that second half alone. There are connections there. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football, and I just think he gets there, and he finds a way to get to 1,000 yards. So that's my 3 picks. The only other pick I would look at is there's no lines, but Jalen Hurts under passing attempts would be a really good look. I think they're only favored by 5 points, but there's not a whole lot to play for because they need the Cowboys to lose their game for them to get the NFC East division. So I just don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy that's going to be throwing the ball 40 times in a game against the Giants. They should be able to pound the rock, get the lead early, get some guys some rest. So if that line does hover around 32.5, I would lean the under there. So we'll see what happens when that line comes out. But for right now, these are 3 picks I'm running with. As always, I really appreciate anyone that comes out here and listens to these. Brian versus the Books with GoBoys.com. And as always, we appreciate Sleeper Picks for everything they do for us. So let's have a good week 18. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.